Ashley Thompson.
And I'm Dan Novak.
This is VOA News via remote. I'm Tommy McNeil. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says that Russia's rush to mobilize and move hundreds of thousands of recruits to staunch stinging losses as a tacit acknowledgement that its army is not able to fight. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also told CBS News that he's bracing for more Russian strikes on Ukraine's electrical infrastructure as the weather gets colder. He says this winter will be very difficult, although the European Union is now largely off limits to most Russians, where direct flights stopped. An exodus of Russians fleeing military service is dividing European opinion over whether they should be granted safe haven. Officials in the Baltic say that the Russians have had plenty of time to protest the war but did not. Partial mobilization is also triggering more protests in Russia. North Korea has fired short-range ballistic missile on Sunday toward its eastern seas, extending a provocative streak in a weapons testing as a U.S. aircraft carrier visits South Korea for joint military exercises in response to the North's growing nuclear threat. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missile launched from the western inland and a town and flew about 600 kilometers cross country at a maximum altitude of 60 kilometers before landing in waters off North Korea's eastern coast. South Korea's presidential office said National Security Director Kim Sung-han called an emergency National Security Council meeting where members denounced the launch as a clear violation of the UN Security Council resolutions and accused the North of raising tensions in the region intentionally. This is VOA News. Typhoon Noru has now blown out of the northern Philippines and left at least 5 rescuers dead and caused floods and power outages and forced officials to suspend classes and government work in the capital and outlying provinces. And the most powerful typhoon to hit the country this year slammed into a province before nightfall on Sunday. And this is the weekend as it barreled overnight across the main Luzon region. Thousands of people were moved to emergency shelters, some forcibly ahead of the storm. The governor of the Bulacan province said 5 rescuers were struck by a collapsed wall while using a boat and apparently drowned in the floodwaters. Hundreds of thousands of people in Atlantic Canada remain without power. Officials are trying to assess the scope of devastation from former Hurricane Fiona. It swept away houses, stripped off rooftops, and blocked across roads. The country's Atlantic provinces, officials said that they found the body of a woman swept into the sea. After surging north from the Caribbean, Fiona came ashore before dawn Saturday as a post-tropical cyclone, still at hurricane strength. The Defense Minister, Anita Anand, says that troops will help remove fallen trees, restore transportation links, and do whatever else is required for as long as it takes. Fiona caused at least 5 deaths in the Caribbean. The Mexican Army's role in the disappearance of 43 college students and its alleged links to organized crime are now at the center of the case that has shaken the entire nation. The government's Truth Commission has declared the 2014 episode a state crime. 3 members of the military and a former federal attorney general have been arrested in that case. Few now believe the government's initial claim, putting all blame on a drug gang and allied local officials for killing the students and burning their bodies. The recent report indicates collaboration between the drug cartel and an officer, and that some of the students' bodies were taken to a local army base. Recapping our top story, Ukraine's president now says that Russia's rush to mobilize hundreds of thousands of recruits to staunch stinging losses is a tacit acknowledgement that its army is not able to fight. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also told CBS he's bracing for more Russian strikes on Ukraine's electrical infrastructure as the weather gets cold. More at voanews.com. Via remotes, I'm Tommy McNeil, VOA News.